Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Don Daniel, founder of P.I.L.L Method International, a better way to eliminate debt. And P.I.L.L Method stands for prepayment of principal, isolating the principal amount, leverage, and liquidity. Once you understand these four banking principles, you can save a ton of money in interest. So what we're going to be doing today, folks, is talking about education. Yeah, I know the title of the show. The title of the show is Slavery by Another Name. But education is key to that, or the lack thereof. Let me tell you something. It was illegal to teach slaves how to read. Once you get empowered by knowledge, they would have had more slave uprisings than they had. Now, there were a lot of slave uprisings, but there would have been more. And I really do believe that slavery would have ended a lot sooner had the slaves learned to read and to acquire knowledge. This is why it was so dangerous. The slave owners knew what they had to do to keep their profits high and their costs low. When you look at the economic impact, well, listen, don't let me talk about it. We have something written here. We're going to talk about the historical institution of slavery versus modern day economic system. All right. And so let me see if I can make this just a little bit bigger. All right. And if you're still on Clubhouse, come on over to YouTube so you can actually see what's going on here. It's all about ownership and control. Just as slavery was characterized by the complete ownership and control over individuals, modern day debt and lending practices often place disproportionate power in the hands of the lender. Wow. So take a look at that. Take a look at this dynamic. This dynamic can specifically limit the economic freedom and mobility of borrowers, echoing the lack of autonomy experienced by slaves. Let me tell you something about this. I was on a live the other day. I was invited to come in to speak to seasoned, experienced real estate investors. And when they heard about what we do here at the P.I.L.L Method, every single one of them said, I was skeptical about the information, because what don't we know about how a loan actually works, how a mortgage works? Okay. By the time we were done, I mean, it was just only about less than 45 minutes. They knew at that time they had to throw away everything they thought they knew about lending. Everything. Because everything they've been doing up until, listen, they know how to buy a property. They know how to buy it right, below market value. Okay. They know how to rehab that property so it can put it into a situation where it can be rented. And so they buy it right, then they rehab it, then they rent it. Okay. And then once they do that, then they take that loan that they have, they pay it back, and then they refinance that loan, and then they repeat the entire process. They were looking at only how much money they were making on the front end, as the rent they were charging and the amount of the loan that they were paying. The difference is the cash flow. They were looking at the cash flow and they were appreciative of the amount of cash flow they were generating. But what they didn't know is they were not educated on how loans actually work. You see, slavery from 1619 in this country, where the first slave ship hit these shores, 1619. You need to read that book, 1619. When the first slave ship hit these shores, until 1863, the Emancipation Proclamation. And probably 1 year later, well, that's where we get Juneteenth from, because there were still slaves. There were still slaves in Texas that didn't know anything about the Emancipation Proclamation. Let me tell you something. Slavery in the United States was black. Black Africans stolen from the continent, brought here, and other places around the world. But this economic slavery knows no color. Everybody under the sun who uses loans today, not educated on how they work. Listen, you're listening to me right now, right? Have you ever had a class on how lending actually works? Huh? I'm telling you, when you see the borrower, let's see, let me see. Let me pull this up for you. Is slave. All right. The borrower is slave to the lender. Okay. That's Proverbs 22, verse 7. Proverbs 22, verse 7. Let me bring that up for you. PROV 22, 7. There we go. And let me bring that over here. I just brought it up on Google. Let's read this. Okay. The rich rules over the poor. The rich rules over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. The borrower is slave to the lender. And the main reason why the borrower is slave to the lender, ladies and gentlemen, is because we don't know how the system works. It's left out of our educational system in grade school, in middle school, in high school, in college, in grad school. I don't care what financial background you have or anyone else you know. They have not been taught how an amortization schedule actually works and how the borrower, people who borrow money, no matter what color, they're slave to the lender. And I don't care how much money they make. And listen, this thing goes beyond poor. It goes up to the richest of the rich who borrow money. The bankers who own the banks understand amortization very well. But their employees are not taught how this whole thing works. And so therefore, you and I we're using credit cards, we're using car loans, student loans, mortgages, personal loans. I don't care what kind of loan you have. If it generates interest, you're paying 75% more interest than you need to pay, only because we have not been educated. Let's dig a little deeper here. I think you're going to like this. Economic benefit derived from inequality. The wealth generated from slavery was built on exploitation of unpaid labor. I've done some research, and it is calculated that between 1619 and 1863, between 3 trillion and 50 trillion, somewhere between 3 and, because they're trying to extrapolate how much money was actually made through slavery, between 3 trillion and 50 trillion dollars from slavery. Do you realize that from the new economic slavery, lending money in this country. There are trillions of dollars made every year through interest. Trillions of dollars a year. And we've had the self-amortizing loan here in the United States since 1936. From 1936, how loans are amortized, meaning how money is generated today. Money is generated through debt. Debt creates money. Debt creates money. Let me tell you how debt creates money. There's so much we don't know about this thing. And the more we don't know means the more money somebody else makes. They're getting rich off of our labor. The borrower, according to the Bible, Proverbs 22, verse 7, the rich rules over the poor. Now, we're not talking about necessarily poor in finances. We could be talking about poor in spirit. We're definitely talking about poor in knowledge. You see, when somebody else knows the rules to the game and they invite you to play and they give you limited rules, you think you're winning the game. If you're paying 75% more interest than you need to, and you're paying it to somebody who knows how money works, are they going to take your hard-earned money, the money that you earned with your blood, your sweat, your tears? Do you think they're going to take that money and invest it? Well, guess what? If you're paying 75% more than you need to pay through ignorance, through the fact that we don't know how it works, that's money we cannot invest in our families. We cannot invest what we don't have. And if you're paying 75% more money than you need to borrow money to get a car, to get a house. Now, I'm not saying borrowing is bad. I'm just saying the way that it is done in this country is tantamount to financial violence. And the way that we're educated or miseducated, we are actually encouraged to victimize ourselves because the amount of information that we have is bad information. Everything that we know to do to handle loans in this day and age, we're doing exactly the wrong thing. You just think about it. How many things do you know that are best practices to get and maintain and pay back a loan? What things have you learned over the years? Well, if you put it in the chat or come to the stage, I will tell you how the bank is making money off of the good things you know to do, because they are really bad things. Let's take a look at what's going on here. Similarly, the financial industry today can profit from high interest rates, even from, I left this part out, even from low interest rates, fees, and practices that exploit consumers, particularly those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Now, that's what most people believe. That is, people from lower socioeconomic backgrounds that suffer. Well, that's a fallacy. Everyone suffers when it comes to lending these days. Because I've never, in the 19 years that I've been doing this, in April of this year, next month will be our 19th year doing this. And in 19 years, in speaking with real estate agents, with loan officers, with accountants, with CPAs, financial planners, people who have been investors in real estate, people who deal with money on a day-to-day basis. People, I've even talked to people who've worked in the World Bank. They don't know how a loan actually works. And if you don't know how a loan works, how do you make it work for you? All right. So listen, Living Man, listen look what Living Man has to say. It says slavery is the name now. So lending, you said slavery is the name of lending now. You better believe it. All right. Brother AJ, what do you have to say here? He says, I'm glued to this. I like history and history behind the thing to find out why the system works this way. Listen, folks, if you don't know how this works, listen, I've listened to financial shows like Planet Money on PBS. Okay. I listened to their podcast, and I have all of them. I have the whole thing. I've listened to, I've watched shows on finances. I've read books on it. Do you know, not one show, not one podcast, not anything I've ever read or saw on YouTube or on the internet talks about how loans actually work. And this is no exaggeration. My book, which we're going to put up here in a second, my book, out of 33 million titles on Amazon, is the only book that talks about how we need to rethink our money, understand how lending actually works, and the tools we need to combat paying 75% more interest than we need to pay. Okay, you can go to ice10k.com, ice10k.com, click on the link to get the book. Start teaching your children, because I guarantee you, this is written so that children can understand it and adults can appreciate. Children can understand and adults can appreciate this book. And start teaching your young people. When you start teaching your young people this, we can turn the tide so that we can borrow money at a discount. And because you can borrow money much cheaper, you are able to get assets much cheaper and then take your money and invest it to create generational wealth beyond your wildest dreams. We have people who are with W-2 jobs. I'm not talking about people who are big-time investors. People who have W-2 jobs, police officers, teachers, factory workers. It doesn't matter. They're learning using the P.I.L.L method how not to give all of that money to the banks and take that money and invest it in their families. It is amazing when you can see it. I'm telling you, even people that come to us thinking they know that they know that they know that they know how this whole thing works. But when we break it down to them, they don't know. And they are so appreciative that they so appreciate the new economic knowledge that they gain through the P.I.L.L method, and only from the P.I.L.L method. That's why I need your help. I need your help in getting this information out so that our people, all people, can be educated on something that is tantamount to financial violence. Let me tell you something. If you knew somebody was suffering from domestic violence, would you stand by and say and do nothing? Well, folks, This is financial violence at the highest degree. Financial violence, because we are expected to play a game where our finances are being funneled from us, siphoned from us. Our wealth is being drawn away, and we don't even realize it. Do you know that the average family pays 35 to 39% of their take-home pay just on interest alone? And that is, I'm talking about well-to-do families. I mean, families that can afford a $750,000 house, a family that can afford $1 million house, a family that can afford $1.5 million or $2 million on a mortgage for a house, drive whatever they want to drive, and vacation everywhere they ever want to vacation, and they pay their bills on time, and they keep low balances on their credit cards. But it doesn't matter. They're still paying way more interest than they need to pay, because everything they're doing to set up their finances gives the bank more money than they need. That's what's going on here. Let's see what else we have. Okay. So the accumulation of wealth then for some is still predicated on systematic inequality. So whether you are an actual slave or an economic slave, it's all based on inequality, and that inequality is the lack of education in our system. It has been withheld from our education. It's not a part of our education. You have to listen, you have to dig this thing out. You have to put it together piece by piece like a jigsaw puzzle, because there's only one book that actually puts some of the pieces together, and that's my book. There's a whole history of the self-amortizing loan starting in 1936. I've done that show before, but not to this degree. Why am I so passionate? Why am I so passionate? Because I grew up in the 50s and the 60s. But I grew up in Michigan, and there were things that I did not see, that I did not know. I did not know what was going on. I never saw a segregated bus. I never saw a segregated school. I went to a school that was integrated. I never saw a segregated drinking fountain. I never saw anything that said Negroes or niggers in the back. I never saw any of that. But for my birthday, March 13th, for my birthday, we usually go out of the country for vacation. And we didn't this time. It just wasn't coming together. The prices weren't lining up. The reservations weren't lining up. I said, why don't we go? Because I live right here in Huntsville. Why don't we go down to Montgomery? Why don't we go to Selma? Why don't we go and to the Legacy Museum? Why don't we go to the Rosa Parks Museum? And when we did that, my wife and I went there. My life has been fundamentally changed by going to the museums, to go to the museum where they have the names of Black people, men, women, and children who were lynched for trivial reasons: not moving off the sidewalk, failing to run an errand. The Slavery Museum, how this country has benefited economically from slavery. somewhere between 3 trillion and 50 trillion by the time slavery ended. And now that money has created untold wealth up to today based on inequality. Do you know that the same inequality exists today when it comes to economic forces that blow against our resources? We think we're okay. We think we are free. But when you find out what's really going on behind the scenes and what you could have been doing, I've seen grown people cry when they found out they thought they were doing well when they found out what was actually going on with these amortized loans and how much money is being sucked out of their bank accounts, sucked out of their legacy that they want to give to their children. Let's read a little bit more. Systematic entrapment and cycle of dependency. Slavery was a system designated to keep enslaved people dependent on their masters. Doesn't matter what kind of slavery it is. You're dependent on the masters because they know what's going on. With little hope for freedom, modern debt can create a similar cycle of dependency where borrowers find themselves trapped in a perpetual state of owing, making it difficult to break free from financial burden. Let me tell you something. 9 out of 10 people you know, I need you to really think about this now. 9 out of 10 people that you know who've ever had a mortgage have not paid it off. 9 out of 10 people you know. 90% of us will never pay off a mortgage our entire working life. We will die with a mortgage because we're not taught how it works. Do you know that once you know what's going on, you can pay off a mortgage, your student loans, your credit cards, your car loans, everything in about 7 years once you know the rules to the game? This is why the rules are not taught. We're going to go over some of those rules in a few minutes. But this thing struck me. How inequality, the lack of education, and people make money off of that. It's not working itself that was the problem. It was working without pay. Forced labor that was the problem. It's not borrowing money that's the problem. It's the lack of education of how borrowing money actually works. And the fact that we're paying more interest than we need to. And if we paid less interest, I'm not talking about the interest rate. I'm talking about the interest cost on these loans keeps people in debt forever because they don't know how it works. And the very tools, the very things that we're taught, they call it best practices. The very things that we're taught keeps us in debt even longer. How about these things? I mean, just to name a few, trying to get the lowest interest rate. Let me tell you something. I've done shows on this. Trying to buy down an interest rate is the wrong thing to do. The lower the interest rate, the harder it is to pay off the loan early. Yes. You want to see I've got shows on that. Anything that has to do with interest rates, look it up. Okay. If you have a high interest rate and people say that, if the interest rates drop by 1 or 2 points, it's time to refinance. Don't do that. Never refinance to get a lower interest rate. Never, ever, ever. Don't do it. You're going to end up paying more interest than you need to do that. Refinancing makes the bank money at least 7 different ways. At least. So refinancing just to get a lower interest rate, don't you do it. And here's another one. Never get anything less than a 30-year loan. Never get anything less than a 30-year loan. Don't do it, because this is what we're taught. When you get something less than a 30-year loan, you just make it harder to pay the loan off faster and cheaper than you actually can. If I have a choice between a 15 and a 30-year loan, in fact, Dave Ramsey says if you can't afford to get a house on a 15-year loan, you can't afford the house. That's a lie. You don't need permission to get a 15-year mortgage. Always get a 30-year loan, and then we show you how to pay it off in 7. So why get a 15? Why put that extra burden on yourself? Okay, so there are things that we've learned to do that we shouldn't do. How about consolidating a loan? How about taking equity out of your house to pay off other high interest loans and roll that into the mortgage? So you got loans of, 15, 20, 27, 30%. You got those high interest loans. Now you can refinance and then lower your monthly payments by about $1,000. Yeah, you could do that. But you'll end up paying 200 to 300% on those loans when you do that. 200 to 300% interest on those loans if you roll those loans into your mortgage. Don't do it. I may not be able to show you all the numbers today, but I have done shows on it in the past. Please, what you want to do is become a member of the P.I.L. Method channel. Well, yeah, you can join the P.I.L. Method channel. You can also make sure that you are what's the word? I can't think of the word right now. Listen. I came back a changed man from Birmingham and from Selma. I actually walked over the Edmund Pettus Bridge. So when you come to the P.I.L. Method, make sure you subscribe to the P.I.L. Method. Okay. Like the videos, share the videos, and I need your help to get this information out. Please become an affiliate. Share the YouTube channel with as many people as you possibly can. In fact, why don't you go to, after the show or during the show, go to YouTube. All right, you're on YouTube, and then you can click on where it says live. All right. And then copy that link from your, from the, where the, my words fail me. My words are failing me. You get the link from the top of the page, copy it, and paste it in an email, and send it out to 10 people. Tell them to watch the YouTube channel. 10 people, 5 to 10 people. Send it out so they can watch this information. Let's get back to what we have here. Okay. Lack of education as a tool of control. Historically, denying slaves education was a method to maintain control and to prevent uprising. In today's context, the lack of financial education keeps many in the dark about how to manage debt effectively, making them more vulnerable to unfavorable lending practices. And I'm not talking about things that are illegal. I'm talking about things that we're taught that we believe actually work. And we just assume that they work because we hear it over and over and over again. I heard somebody on, around Christmas time on TV where it says, you have these, you put Christmas on a credit card, and your credit card is 15 to 20% interest. And they're saying that's could be 3 to 5 times more than your mortgage interest. Therefore, you should go ahead and pay those credit cards off for that reason. Do you know that when you calculate the interest cost on a credit card, even at 27%, chances are the interest that month on the credit card is going to be 3 times less than the interest you're paying on your mortgage. I don't care what the interest rate is. I'm talking about the interest cost. When you do the math, people say things and they just assume it's correct because they've heard it so many times. I can take the money that you're paying off a credit card too fast. You can pay off a credit card too fast, Paying off a credit card too fast, you can actually take that money and put it on the mortgage and save 3 to 10 times the interest you would be saving if you paid off the credit card faster. You need to know which loans to attack, what month to do it in, what day of the month to do it on. These are the things that we're not being taught, how to do the math on how loans actually work. All we get is platitudes. All we get is heuristics or rules of thumb. That's what we get. We don't get education on why we should pick one loan over the other. We hear high interest rates and we automatically equate that with bad. We hear low interest rates and we automatically equate that with good. Now, it's doing the math that determines whether it's good or bad. Doing the math. And at the P.I.L.L method, we actually teach you how to do the math. Oh, yeah. Being a client of the P.I.L.L method, you get educated, not just one time, but throughout your lifetime. Education is part of a lifetime system, whereas when we know more, you know more. We're the only system out there that gives you AI technology and superior financial education so that you can learn all the things that you should have learned all the way through school. And then you can start teaching it to your children. Okay? So let's take a look at this. In today's context, the lack of financial education keeps many in the dark about how to manage debt effectively, making them more vulnerable to unfavorable lending practices. This educational gap serves to uphold the power imbalance between lender and borrower. Proverbs 22, verse 7, the rich rule over the poor. The borrower is slave to the lender. Systematic, legal, and systematic support. Here we go. Lord have mercy. What, Michelle, what are you saying this? Michelle just said, she just shared this. Michelle Watson Grant, come on here. Let's give her a shout out. Just shared this. More people need to see the truth. You are so right, Michelle. You are so right. Brother AJ, he doesn't even have words for it. He just puts his hands on his face and says, oh my gosh, what's going on here? What's going on? Legal and systematic support. Slavery was upheld by laws and societal norms that justified that perpetuated the system. Today, certain lending practices and financial policies can disproportionately affect the economically disadvantaged. Not just the economically disadvantaged, I'm talking about the educationally disadvantaged as well. All of us are in the same boat. Black, white, yellow, red, it doesn't matter. Okay, whatever hue. Brown, it doesn't matter. We have not been taught how lending works. And I was going to say the word stealing, but it is siphoning off our wealth through, and it's not, let me tell you something here. I'm not talking about predatory loans. I'm talking about the best loans out there that you could possibly get. You're still paying more interest than you need to, based on the interest rate. Even a 3% mortgage, even a 3% mortgage for 30 years, you're going to pay back 51% of what you borrowed. Okay? 3%. This is going to be the first example that I show. The first example that I show. Okay? Here's a I'm going to put a $200,000 mortgage on here. $200,000 mortgage at 3%. Remember when you could get a 3% loan and everybody was happy? Okay? Let me show you something. Payment is $843.21, but here's how much interest they want. On a $200,000 mortgage, the bank wants $103,555.60. How is that 3%? Can somebody tell me how that $103,555.60 is 3% of 200,000, when in fact is 51.778 or 51.777, depending on the interest rate. 51.777%. That's what the real interest is on this loan at 3%. So everything that you've learned about low interest rates, there are people out there now that if you have a low interest rate, they're saying, don't pay the loan off early. Take that money and invest it. Yeah. But they're trying to think that this is a 3% loan because even the people saying that don't know how loans actually work. They don't realize it's a 51% loan. They don't. So, Michelle Watson Grant, what else are you saying? It says, I was also going to share it with a friend who's teaching finance to youth of color. Thank you. Thank you. And listen, folks, if you know of anything on finance, anything anywhere in the country or even out of the country, and they need a speaker, then contact me at ice10k.com, ice10k.com, so that they can know that they can get somebody as a speaker that can tell them the truth about how lending and loans actually work. Do you know, once you know how it works, do you know that you can look at student loans as a blessing? What? Yes, you can. Student loans can be paid back in an average of 5 to 7 years when you have the education and you have the technology. Yeah, we've seen it. We've done it here at the P.I.L.L method. Okay, let me get this example off the screen. All right, I just wanted to show you. Okay, when we're talking about the economically disadvantaged, with the system itself creating and enforcing rules that benefit the financial elite at the expense of the broader population. You see, the entire population that uses self-amortizing loans, everybody is miseducated. Everybody. Listen, there's some people that I know that do. They've come up with some fantastic strategies, and they've saved themselves and their families thousands upon thousands of dollars. But let me tell you something. And here's one thing that's going to separate those who have done their own work without the benefit of knowing how an amortization schedule actually works. They've saved themselves money. But here's the thing. When you do anything to save yourself interest on your loans, when you do just one thing, how much interest did you just save? Whatever strategy that you're working on, whatever strategy that you put in place, and you've done something to pay a loan off faster, when you did this one thing to start paying your loan off faster, how much interest did you save with that one move? And folks, if you can't answer that question, then you can't optimize what you're doing. Meaning, if you don't have a baseline, if you have no idea how much interest you're saving, then how can you construct a program for yourself that will save even more money? You know, that's what we're about. We're about trying to do better and to do more. Well, if you don't know what the minimum is, how can you do anything that's going to get you more? When will you know that you've done better if you don't know what's worse? Let me tell you something, how insidious this whole education on lending actually is. Every one of you, practically every one of you, has a credit card, a car loan, or a mortgage, or a loan of any type, have actually paid more than the minimum payment. Have you not? Have you ever paid more than the minimum payment? Let me tell you how devious this thing is. If you've paid more than the minimum payment, did the bank ever send you a receipt that says, thank you for the extra payment? Here's how much interest you just saved. Have you ever received that receipt? Anybody? Has the bank ever told you you saved X amount of dollars in interest when giving them money, extra money, over and above the minimum payment? Not one of you. Not one. Do you realize you know what's worse than that? Of not knowing, them not telling us? You know, there's something worse than that. And here it is. It didn't even occur to us to ask how much we were saving with that extra money. We gave the bank money. You are actually buying something with that extra money. You're buying financial savings, and you're buying time savings by paying extra. But you didn't know how much time you were saving. You didn't know how much interest you were saving. And it didn't even occur to us to ask. Lending is the only thing that I know of. Borrowing and paying back money is the only thing that I know of where we give extra money and we don't know what we got for that money. And it doesn't even occur to, listen, if you went to the store and you brought home some groceries and you looked into your purse or wallet and you found out that you lost $10, that thing stings. Losing $10 or $20 on the ground somewhere, that thing stings for a while. But do you realize that we're paying $150,000 to $200,000 more than we need to pay? That we're losing on our mortgages right now. And it doesn't even begin to bother us when we give the bank more money than is owed at that time. And we don't know how much interest we just saved. That doesn't even bother us because we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. That $5 to $10 or $20 we just lost hurts us more than the $150,000 extra you're paying on your mortgage you don't have to pay, because you don't miss, watch this now, you can't miss what you cannot measure. One more time. You can't miss what you cannot measure. And this whole system is set up on you not being able to measure interest cost or interest savings right there. Okay, here we go. What else do we have here? The role of education and technology in addressing injustices. You see, somebody, the Equal Justice Initiative is opening up a new a new museum next week. Okay, look it up. They're opening up a new museum next week in Montgomery, where you actually ride on the river to a dock where slaves disembarked and were set up to sell. You actually told the whole story floating down the river, getting off the boat, and seeing the whole new museum that they've set up. It is important. It is important that we never forget how slavery impacted not just the people who were enslaved, but the enslavers. It tears everybody down. And I began to understand this generational trauma. Now, some people might think that there's no such thing. Okay, now, let me look up this Bible verse, and the Bible verse is let's see, is it my father? Let me see if I can look it up. 8 sour grapes. And my teeth are on edge. Let me see if I can look that up. Okay. Is it Jeremiah? Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 29. Let's see. It says, the parents have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. Yeah, it's Jeremiah 31:29. Jeremiah 31:29. And Michelle says, is it also Ezekiel 18:2? Okay. Okay. So in those days, they shall say no longer, the parents have eaten sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. See, listen, folks, generational trauma. You don't have to experience slavery to realize its adverse effects. You see, if you were born in the 50s and 60s, do you realize you were just like 3 generations away from slavery? Do you realize that your grandparents or your great grandparents, if you were born in that time, were slaves, came out of slavery? And people expect us to get over that and not realize that that trauma, the gross injustices that happened to one generation, even if it doesn't happen to the next 2 or 3 or 4 generations, that trauma persists. And it affects all people. That's why it is important that it be taught in our schools. There is such a push now to take this part of American history out of schools so that the little children are not traumatized by what their parents and their grandparents did. Folks, if we don't educate our children correctly on the history of what made this country, we are doomed to repeat it. And that comes to actual slavery and what happens when one group of people dehumanize another group of people. Well, we're just doing it with money now. where one group of people say, listen, I'm going to use you as a resource, and you don't even know you're being used as a resource, because I'm going to make sure that the things that you need to know, these things are left out of the educational system. I'm just going to make sure that. What else do we have here? The P.I.L.L method, with its focus on optimized interest savings and the strategic repayment of loans, embodies the push for financial liberation. Share it, share this channel, share this channel, share this channel. By educating individuals on how to navigate the complexities of the lending system and offering technological tools like the opportunity cost calculator, that's our AI system, ladies and gentlemen, that does all of the math and says, this is the very thing to do in this month, on this day of the month, with this much money. This is how you manage your finances so you can get more with less. So you can buy more with less. So that you can enjoy more for less. And that you can take the money that you saved and invest it in your families to start creating generational wealth out of the money that you already have. It aims to dismantle the modern day economic equivalents of chains and shackles. It aims to dismantle the modern day economic equivalents of chains and shackles. That's what's going on today, folks. Modern day slavery is a travesty. It is unconscionable. The very things that we're suffering, and we don't even know that we're suffering. That's what makes it even worse. And then we're educated to even victimize ourselves because of the false information that we have surrounding finances. We are made to victimize ourselves. This approach, now this may or may not be true. I've heard that it is true. I heard that it isn't true. Okay? That on the Underground Railroad, that thousands were saved through the Underground Railroad. But thousands of more slaves could have been saved if they only knew they were slaves. You see, right now, many of us, we don't know that we're enslaved by this system. It is my hope and my prayer that by putting programs out like this, more people can realize how they have been impacted by this new institutional slavery. Folks, I've been talking for about an hour. So we're going to play something from Dr. Eric Thomas while I get a drink of water, and then we're going to finish up this show. But please remember this. Get the information so that you can not only know, but share it with someone else. It's not enough to know it and to benefit from it. We have to share what we have learned. Let's hear from Dr. Eric Thomas.
Listen to me, y'all. But one of his mentees took us through one of their programs, and I paid off my mortgage. But guess what happened? My marriage went to a whole nother level. And you know why? Because my wife is a security freak. And even when I blew up, my wife would be like, oh, you blew up, but how long is you gonna keep making this kind of money? I was like, I don't know, forever. She's like, you sure? Because I'm gonna keep my license as a nurse just in case you don't. So when I paid the house off, my boy was like, you ain't gotta do that, you can do this. But when I paid the house off using that program, it took the stress level all the way down from my wife because we no longer had a mortgage. Does that make sense? That thing that was coming every month, that was getting on her nerves, we didn't have that no more. And so she was at rest.
Well, folks, did you hear that? Eric Thomas didn't know about amortization. He didn't know about interest cancellation. He didn't know about any of this stuff. But when he found out, he took advantage of it. And you would think somebody being, somebody who can command at this point in his life. He is the hottest ticket in town when it comes to motivational speaking. Okay, he's commanded up to $150,000 an hour to speak to corporations. You would think he would need information on how to pay off a loan. But in fact, it doesn't matter how much money you make. You need to pay a loan off in the right way with the right timing to save the maximum amount of interest. And see, here's what leveraging is all about. Paying the least amount at a particular time to save the most in interest saved per dollar applied. When you put that money on, paying back your loan, you want to make sure that you maximize the amount of interest you're saving per dollar, and then be careful not to put too much on at the wrong time, because then you lose opportunities to invest money to make compound interest over years. So you need a balanced approach where you can put money on the debt and then take the extra money and put it into wealth building. So you need a balanced approach of interest cancellation and wealth creation. One more time, interest cancellation and wealth creation at the same time by allocating your funds proportionally. And there's a lot of math that goes into that, folks. And we help you here at the P.I.L.L Method to do that math. So let's show you how you can get started on this, and then I'll finish up. Okay, let's show you how you can get started. All right, let me pull this over here. All right, and we're going to look at ICE10K.com. ICE stands for Interest Cancellation Expert. Interest Cancellation Expert. Okay. ICE10K.com will take you to this page. All right. You just scroll down underneath Dr. Eric Thomas's picture here. Well, this is a video. I got 4 videos in here you want to see. They're short. You'll enjoy them. Then click on where it says Get a Savings and Earnings Report. You can now break out of slavery by getting your own savings and earnings report. Please don't let anybody talk you out of this and say, all you have to do is. If they have not been educated with the P.I.L.L method, if they have not been educated by my book, if they have not been educated on how loans actually work, they don't have the information, because this information didn't come from somebody else's book. Well, Don, where did you get it? Well, I'll tell you. Because I have autism spectrum disorder, ASD, when I look at an amortization schedule, I see things in pictures and patterns that most people don't see. They don't see it, but I see it. So when I take a look at an amortization schedule, I'm taking what I've learned over the years and just kept messing with it and built up some knowledge about how the whole thing works. Put it in a book, share it on YouTube for the last almost 3 years, so people can know that the very things that we've been taught have been backwards. It's upside down. Knowing that the higher interest rates can actually work better for you than lower interest rates. I've had financial professionals actually request a higher interest rate when they qualified for a lower one. Yeah, because of how they got paid, the higher interest rate actually saved them more money. That's right. If you ever want to know any of this, make sure, go ahead and fill one of these out and ask me those questions. I will answer every single one of these questions and I'll show you the numbers to prove it. Okay? Okay, Brother AJ. Brother AJ says he's got to run. Okay? But he'll catch the replay. All right? It'll be up. It'll be up. You'll be able to catch the replay. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, get your savings and earnings report today. Start on that today. It's a 2-step process. Start on it. Okay? And know the month, day, and year you could be debt free and how much interest you can save and how you can take that interest that you're no longer giving to the bank and start to generate wealth for your family. Start to create like your own little bank for your family. And you will be able to still live well, still go out to dinner, still go on vacation, drive a nice car. You'll be able to enjoy life while you're getting out of debt in an average of 7 to 9 years, and then taking that extra money and investing it in your family. You'll be able to live well, get out of debt faster in 7 to 9 years, pay off and save money, grow your savings. At the same time, you're paying off your debt. At the same time, living well and getting out in 7 to 9 years, and then taking that money that you're no longer giving to the bank and turn it into fantastic wealth for your family. You can do that starting today, starting here. Go to ice10k.com, click on get a savings and earnings report. Okay? Now, let's go back so we can finish up for today. Okay? This has been emotionally draining for me. I don't know about you, but it has for me. Anytime you do any getting the truth about something. Now, I've heard, I've been taught about slavery my entire life. But when I went to the museum and then saw all of that data and all of the lives that were affected, and the 12 to 15 million slaves, enslaved people taken from Africa, enslaved and brought here to the United States, and about 2 million died in the passage. 2 million died from Africa to here. Some of them never made it here. And then the horrendous treatment that these people suffered, and the tremendous wealth that was generated from their suffering that the United States is still benefiting from today. Well, folks, we've just made slavery a different name. And now, instead of enslaving Black people, finances enslaves everyone who doesn't know what's going on with this. Let's finish this up. Let's finish this up today. Okay? This approach does not only seek to inform, but to empower. It's not just enough to inform, but we need to empower our people, all people, economically. And do you know what will happen? It will not cause the system to crash. In fact, it will cause the system to flourish. Somehow, some way, we got the idea that we have to have winners and losers. Not when it comes to finances. We can all win. We can all make money. We can all do well. We don't have to take advantage where the borrower is slave to the lender. And in fact, when we know what to do, the borrower can be a partner with the lender, in business with the lender, where everyone benefits. The borrower doesn't have to be slave to the lender. The borrower can be partner with the lender. Okay? Just thought about that. This approach does not only seek to inform, but to empower. providing a means for individuals to take control of their financial destiny, take control. In doing so, it challenges the systematic injustices that have long benefited from the exploitation and manipulation of the less informed and economically vulnerable. Why do we have to take advantage of people who are less informed? Folks, you don't have to be less informed. You can be very well informed when you walk into a bank. You can borrow money in confidence, knowing you know the rules now and how to pay less interest to get the same house, the same car, the same education, learning how to leverage someone else's money so that you can take your money and invest it and make compound interest by investing your money. There are some people out there that says you need to save all your money and then buy stuff with cash. That's not how banks operate. Banks operate by borrowing your money and investing your money and then paying you pennies on the dollar for the use of your money. Why don't we have the financial experts out there teaching us how to think more like a bank instead of telling you cash is king, where you lose opportunities by putting your money, saving up your money in a bank account that's making 1/10 of 1%, when you could be investing that money and making a ton of interest over here while you're borrowing money and paying a tiny bit of interest over here. How would you like to know how to do that? That's what we do here at the P.I.L.L Method. Oh, Michelle says amen. Amen, Michelle. Same to you, girl. Listen, we need to understand these things. Drawing these parallels illuminates not only the persistence of old power dynamics in new forms, but also highlights pathways towards rectifying long-standing economic disparities. Only education does that, ladies and gentlemen. Education and practice. Education and practice. Getting the right information and putting it to use. We can start rectifying long-standing economic disparities. And it starts with buying my book, getting the book, invest in the book, teach it to your children. The pursuit of financial education and the leveraging of technology. Do you know the power of leveraging an AI cloud-based computing system that is put together in order to disrupt the bank's timing and makes it impossible? And listen, that's not hyperbole. We make it impossible for the bank to charge you interest when you pay them back. We can show you how to pay back the bank money. Anytime you give this money back to the bank in a way that we prescribe, it makes it impossible for them to charge you interest while you're doing that. Now, they're still going to get 7 years worth of interest, but it ain't 30 years worth of interest. That's 23 years worth of interest you don't have to pay. What can you do with that money? Now, you're investing over here, okay? And you're borrowing over here and paying a tiny bit of interest to acquire your asset. You're already investing, and now we're going to track how much interest you didn't pay that the bank was looking for. We're going to track that, and we're going to quantify it. And then when we have those numbers, we can show you how you can now take that money, that reclaimed money, that found money, and invest that also on top of what you're already doing over here. Millions of dollars. We're leaving millions of dollars on the table, and especially if you are a real estate investor. Oh man, you listen, you are really losing out. I don't care how much money you're making on the front end, cash flowing, 20% cash on cash return. Somebody asked me that the other day. Well, Donna, when I invest in real estate, I can make 20% cash on cash return. So I showed them how they can take a loan, one of the loans that they have, and make 500% return on your money. Yeah, 5 to 700% return on your money. Keep investing what you're investing in over here, and then take this lending and take this lending to a whole new level, and make 500 to 700% return on your money, and then take that money and invest it as well. That's what we have to do. So we're going to draw these parallels. Drawing these parallels illuminates not only the persistence of old power dynamics in new forms, but also highlights pathways towards rectifying longstanding economic disparities. The pursuit of financial education and the leveraging technology for better debt management become acts of resistance against a system designed to maintain the status quo of inequality. This system is designed just for this, maintaining a status quo of inequality through the miseducation of our people. All people are miseducated on these loans and how they work if you're not a bank owner. Well, folks, let me just show you some of the things that we're talking about how this whole system is being made to take advantage of what we don't know. I'm going to go to Brett Whistle here, amortization calculator. We're going to put in the median home price of $420,000. Okay. Interest rate is 7% these days. Okay. I got one too many zeros in here. Okay. And calculate. Here's our payment. $27.94.27. Okay. Now, somebody had, let's say they had $100,000. I'm just going to go over some things in general here. Okay. I'm just going to go over some things in general. The first thing that you need to know is what happens when you prepay. The first thing you need to know is what happens when you give the bank more money on your time schedule instead of theirs. Every month on this loan, every month when you pay on time, $344.27 goes to principal. The bank gets $24.50 in interest when you're paying on time. But when you choose the timing, pay the bank their money on the first month, take a look at for instance, take a look at the principal payment on the second month. What if you gave the bank that money also in the first month? Paid your regular mortgage payment of $27.94.27, and give the bank an additional $346.28 on top of that. You're paid down to line 2 on this amortization schedule. You just saved that much in interest, $2,447.99. You just saved that. Okay, that's amazing. When you do the math, okay, let's put a calculator on the screen. When you do the math, there we go. Here it is. When you do the math, we saved $24.47.99 divided by the $346.28. That's because that's what we prepaid, $346.28. Take that answer and multiply it by 100. That is your return on investment, 706%. Almost 707% return on your money when you look to pay off your loan cheaper. You see, paying off a loan fast isn't good enough. What we want is to say, if we're working hard for our money, how do we preserve our money so fewer dollars do more work? How can we do that so fewer dollars do more work? How can we buy more for less? That is, when we can optimize the use of every single dollar and every penny that makes up every dollar. When we optimize it, we get more for less. And there's so much math involved. Our program does all of the math. It tells you tells you how much money to move, what month to move it in, what day of the month to move it on, and how which loan to attack. The average family has 13 different debts. That's a lot of interest consumption each month. Interest consumption. How much interest are you consuming each month? You don't know? Well, we're taught not to know. Yeah, we're taught not to know how much interest we're consuming each month, because if we did, it would cause us stress. And if it caused us stress, then we couldn't work like we're working now. We work, we buy, we work to pay back, and how we manage that debt keeps that debt longer. So we're working to pay debt until we die. Somebody's benefiting from that system. And I don't care what education you have on it. If you don't know the math behind it, if you don't know how to optimize your interest savings and to the penny, and when you can see the numbers and know, like this, I prepay this, I save that. You know exactly how much you're saving when you know what to do. I can prepay this, the $4,266.41 that I would pay in over a year towards the loan, but the bank wants $29,000 in interest that we've forgotten about because we get so used to making the payments. We're not looking at how much the bank is making. This family, who does very well, pays their loan down by $4,266.41 in 1 year, but it cost them $29,000 in interest to do it. That is crazy. What if they had this money and they could pay it all at one time on line one? They'll be paid down to here in 1 month, and it won't cost them $29,000 in interest. It will only cost them $2,450 in interest to do the exact same thing. That is a huge savings. And then those savings can be optimized because now our program is going to tell them exactly to the penny how much to pay. So you're not paying more than you should at the wrong time. Paying more than you should at the wrong time, that's called violating the law of diminished return. Doing more than you should doesn't mean you're being more efficient. In fact, it means you're being less efficient. Okay? It's like if you get the best gas mileage at 70 miles an hour, you can get there faster if you drive 95, but you're going to use more gas. It's not as efficient. Faster isn't efficient. Efficient is always faster. Efficient. Being efficient with your money. Okay? So that's one thing we've learned. What if you had an extra $100,000 and you wanted to put it on this loan? Okay, you wanted to put it on this loan, extra $100,000, so that you could borrow $320,000 instead. Okay, so your very first payment will be on $320,000. Well, what if you did this instead? You got $420,000 loan, you got an extra $100,000. What if you didn't know anything about the P.I.L.L method? What if I don't want to use the P.I.L.L method. I don't want to use their system, but I have $100,000 that I could have put as a down payment and have a $320,000 loan, or I can get the $420,000 loan, take a look at cumulative principal, and add the $100,000 to this first payment. Ooh, what would that do? Let's scroll down to $100,000. Apply to this loan. Look what it does. Look at here. Look at here. Knocks off a ton. 171 payments. 171 payments we never have to make, saving $370,000 in interest. And look here, we still have a $320,000 loan, don't we? But we don't start on payment number 1. We start on payment number 171 of the amortization schedule with a down payment. The banks aren't telling you that. They're not telling you that. Okay. So what if you're building a house? What if you're building a house and the builder says, listen, we're going to buy down your rate so you don't have to have this 7% rate. We're going to buy down the rate and we're going to get you down to about 5%. Okay. They're going to spend between 12 and 17,000 of their dollars so that you will buy their house. You know what I say? Yeah, I like your design. I like your houses. You don't have to buy down my rate. Give me the $12,000. Give me the $17,000. Okay. I'll keep this higher interest rate. And guess what? I'm going to keep this higher interest rate. I'm going to take the $12,000 you gave me. Let's go down to cumulative principal and put it on this loan, right here, and knock off over 2.5 years off this mortgage and save myself $77,000 in interest with a $12,000 you are going to give the bank just to buy a lower interest rate. I'd rather give me that money. Let me show you what we can do with that. Does that make sense, people? We are not taught how to figure interest costs. We're not taught in this way. We're not. Well, what about those people who are looking to get a lower, let's say they get a 15-year loan? Let me show you something about a 15-year loan that no real estate agent will show you, no lending officer will show you. Okay, let me show you something here. Okay, so we've got a 30-year loan. Here's the payment. And here is the first interest payment. Okay. The first interest payment on this loan is $2,450. Okay. Let me show you something. Here is we don't want we want a 25-year loan. We can get a 25-year loan. Okay. 25-year loan, that's 300 payments. All right. Payment will be a little bit more. Okay. All right. So it's $2,968. But take a look at the very first interest payment. It's still $2,450. Is that right? Yeah, $2,450. On a 25-year loan is $2,450. Oh well, it's got to be different. It's got to be different on a 20-year loan. So we're going to put in let's see, 360 to 200. A 20-year loan is 240 payments. Yeah, 240 payments. All right. 20-year loan. That's got to be better, right? Let's calculate that. Okay, now my payment is $32.56. But take a look at the very first interest payment. Doggone it. Still $2,450. Look at that. Huh. Well, listen, let's go all the way to a 15-year loan. Okay, we're going to do a 15-year loan. That's 180 payments. Okay, 180 payments for a 15-year loan. Let's do that. 180 payments. You see, folks, the very stuff that they're telling us, it ain't true. Okay. Now, here's the very first payment, $2,450. Look at the amount of interest that you pay in the first year on the 30-year loan. On the 30-year loan, the first year you pay $29,264. Okay. On the 25-year loan, you pay $29,196, almost as much. On the 20-year loan, you're still paying $29,083 in the first year. On the 15-year loan, you drop down to $28,879.81, but your payment is a whopping $3,700, as opposed to a payment of $2,794. $1,000 more, $1,000 more, and the difference in the first year mortgage, it's barely noticeable. So listen, folks, give me the 30-year loan where I don't have to come up with $1,300 to put on principal to eliminate one payment. I don't have to do that because on a 30-year loan, all I have to do is come up with $346 to make a prepayment, to knock off 1 year, to knock off 1 month. Do you see what we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen? We don't know what we don't know. And I want to thank you for being here and letting me teach you about this today. Okay, so now share this with some people. Share this with people. So what do we say, Michelle? What do we have here? She says, great show. I'm more fired up to continue with my P.I.L.L method program. Thank you, Michelle. I'm so glad. Give us a call. We'll make sure that you get back on track with everything. She says, thanks to me. Thanks, Don Daniel, for the education and the encouragement. You are so welcome. You're so welcome. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of our show today. I hope that we've given you enough to go ahead and get a savings and earnings report. Get a savings and earnings report. Go to ice10k.com and fill out the information and share this show with your friends. Share it with your friends so that they can know that they are in economic slavery if they don't have this information. And they're paying way more interest. They're taking their family's legacy and giving it to the banks. Let's stop doing that. Let's get educated about our money. Also, go ahead and get my book. Let's put the book on the screen. Go ahead and get my book. This book is written so that kids can understand it and adults can appreciate it. So start teaching this information to your children. Go to ice10k.com and click the link down here at the bottom that says buy my book. Go ahead and do that. Start teaching your kids. Okay? The next thing you want to do is become an affiliate. Start sharing this with other people. And the P.I.L.L method will pay you between $300 and $3,000 a month. Between $300 and $3,000 a month. We'll teach you how to share the YouTube channel with people. How to give us the information on people that like that information. You give us the information, we'll take it from there. When they become a client, we'll pay you. And all you did, no selling, just share the YouTube channel with them, follow up with them. If they like what they saw and they want more information, send us their information. Okay. Yeah, we have a form for that. You just scroll down underneath my picture here. Okay. That's when I had hair. Okay. I'm gonna keep using that picture because that's one what I have with hair. So, and then click on refer a friend. Refer a friend. Put this in here. Put their name, their phone number, their email, their zip code. Put your name and your phone number in here and give us some information about this particular client. They watch the videos. They're ready to go. They want more information. Tell us, when they work or when it's the best time to call them, and we'll get staff members on it. And you click submit. We get that, and you get credit for it as soon as they become a client. Okay. All right. So also subscribe to the YouTube channel, folks, and let everybody know what's going on here. So we're going to be back here Sunday. Flame Newton's going to be in the house. Flame Newton's going to be in the house on Sunday, and you want to be here for this show because this show, Flame is going to be talking about how to level up your business credit so that you can walk into a bank and walk out with $150 in your pocket. $150,000 in your pocket, not $150, $150,000 in your pocket. Flame Newton is going to be here 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and we're going to have a great time. And not only are we going to talk about how to get the money, ladies and gentlemen, but for the first time, we're going to put together a plan where you can get business credit and pay it back more efficiently so that you can make more money in whatever you're investing in, because we're now leveraging that money to the hilt. We're going to talk about that on Sunday. So, folks, that's it for today. Thank you so very much for being here today. Thank you for letting me unburden my soul, because when I went to Montgomery, it was a life-changing event. When I walked across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, it was a life-changing event. And I just found out that they're opening up a brand new museum in Montgomery next week. Look it up, get to Montgomery, take your kids on the civil rights tour so that we can not only understand where we've been, that will help us to understand who we are today. All right, folks. Happy Sabbath to you all. I'm out of here. I'll be back on Sunday. Don't call me tomorrow. I'll be in church. So we'll see you later. Have a great day. We're going to show you one more video. We're out. How many want to know how to pay off all of your debt in an average of 7 to 9 years? You can do all of this without refinancing, without change to your budget, without sacrificing lifestyle.
Me and my husband do the P.I.L.L method, and last year we were able to pay down $33,000 on our mortgage without feeling like we were poor. We still did tons of entertaining things and enjoyed our family.
You don't have to eat beans and rice every day. You don't have to cut up your credit cards. You don't have to drive a 30-year-old car. You don't have to sell pizzas at night to pay off your mortgage. All you need to do is pay the bank less interest. That's what we're talking about today. Here is what P.I.L.L method stands for: prepayment of principal, isolation of principal amounts, leverage, and liquidity. You understand it? You have a way of getting out of debt more efficiently. The interest rate you're quoted is not the interest rate you pay. You think you're buying a $500,000 home. The true cost of that home is what? $758,000. Total interest paid as a percentage of principal, 51.777%. That's what's going on with this loan. The ability to read and defeat an amortization schedule is not taught at any level of financial education. I need you to understand the power of a penny. You will not hear what I'm talking about from Dave Ramsey. Do you know why? Because I own the copyright. I literally wrote the book.
But Don has some valuable information that can contribute to the quality of a person's life. And it only costs you a few dollars. It's his book. Why not get that?
I'm going to go through the P.I.L.L method myself with some of my investment properties. So I'm going to link up with Don, and then I'm going to sit down with him, show him my investment portfolio, and see how I can eliminate interest.